Alright guys, my name is MetaGoblin. Today I'm going to be giving my honest advice to mages for TBC Classic. If you like this video guys, you really want to help out, please subscribe to the channel, like this video and leave a comment in the comment section of what you think about mages in TBC. But anyway, let's jump in. So first big question people are going to be asking when they consider rolling a mage is what spec should I play when I'm doing tier 4 content, okay? So when you're doing Karzhan and farming dungeons, you're going to be farming a lot of dungeon rep to get certain things up to exalted to get some of your pre-raid best in slot gear. Honestly, a lot of the time you probably want to stay frost, okay? And there's a reason for that. First of all, it's because of the improved blizzard talent, which obviously adds a slowing effect to your blizzard spell. Okay, this is an absolute godsend for doing dungeons really fast and grinding rep really fast. The tank can massively reduce his total damage taken just by simply stepping backwards, right? This also means that warlocks will not be afraid to pump their maximum AoE DPS possible with Seed of Corruption, because even if they pull aggro, because of the improved blizzard slow, they're just going to die before the warlock is in a, under any kind of threat, and the tank can just kind of ping pong taunt anyway. Honestly, when you have a protection paladin, a warlock and a mage in an AoE farming group, you will clear dungeons twice as fast as a different setup without AoE DPS and without a protection paladin. Trust me when I say this, from someone who's played on TP servers quite a lot, there's nothing more irritating than a mage coming to a dungeon run without improved blizzard talent and in some strange single target raiding spec like fire or arcane. Having a frost mage is also really good for when you're clearing Karzhan, because there's some really difficult trash packs which are made much easier with the improved blizzard talent, so it just smooths out the experience much more. And honestly, because you have cold snap, you can double cooldown icy veins, and the DPS that you will be doing, particularly when you don't have a lot of crit gear or hit gear, will actually be really decent in Frostbite. Icy Veins has really good synergy with the Berserking Troll racial, Bloodlust and Heroism, and obviously drums that you can pop with the leatherworking buff for a really fast cast time and a lot of decent DPS. Don't be afraid to go Frost when it comes to Karzhan, because you will deal decent damage and you won't have to keep spending money on re-specking. I mean, if you do have the money, right, and you can actually afford to be respecking into Arcane, which you're probably going to play Arcane most likely when you're doing tier 4 raiding because of the ridiculous amount of hit chance that you will get. So if you have the money to keep swapping between Arcane and Frostspec, then fair enough, go ahead and do that, but wait until the next section when I'm going to talk about just how much money you're going to need in TBC before you make that decision, because when you fully grasp how much money you have to spend in TBC on your best in slot gear, then you're probably going to be reconsidering just sticking Frost, because obviously while you're in Frost you're doing your dungeons faster, you're pretty decent at raids, and then you also have the capability to do really good AoE gold farming. Obviously not as good as classic WoW because of the AoE cap that's been removed, but still much better at doing solo gold farms than the other specs. So I would definitely stay Frost until you start crafting your Spellfire set, because obviously Spellfire only provides a bonus to fire and arcane damage. So once you start having the money to afford that, then yeah, switch over to Arcane for when you're doing raiding. But honestly, you can go into raids in Frostspec and yeah, have the capability to do dungeons really fast and do loads of great AoE gold farming, which you will need. Because if you really want to top the meters in TBC, you want to be crafting your pre-best in slot tailoring loot. That is so powerful, it will last you until tier 6. So it's going to last you a good year, which is why it's definitely worth crafting. And this will obviously be the Spell Strike set and the Spellfire set. Okay, the reason why these sets are so strong is mainly because of the set bonuses, which Spell Strike provides a spell power proc, which is really good. And then Spellfire set actually increases your spell power based on your intellect, so it's going to scale as you get better and better gear. And this is without mentioning the raw powerful stats that are on the gear and all of the juicy gem slots. And it's just simply better than the raid loot that you can get from tier 4 and tier 5 raiding. But here is the cold hard truth: it costs a lot of money. Okay. Before I jump in though, obviously I'm definitely recommending for mages, another piece of honest advice is to probably ditch your engineering and go tailoring, so that you can craft these gear pieces and then maybe get engineering later when you no longer need these pieces. But anyway, so on a classic WoW server, with a massively inflated economy, it's going to distort the cost of Spellstrike and Spellfire. So on a fresh TBC server, a private server, you're looking at about 8 to 10,000 gold to craft all of your best in slot gear. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was basically doubled in Classic WoW because of the inflated economy. And crafting it yourself is a little bit impractical. It will take you at least 2 months to be able to craft all of it yourself, because Spellcloth is required to craft the gear and it has a 3-day cooldown, okay? When you're spec'd into it, you will get 2 pieces on every cooldown, but then you won't have a spec for the other pieces. So this can be fairly difficult, alright? This means you have to buy the cooldowns from other people. You're going to be buying the cooldowns from Shadow Priest and Warlocks, who obviously don't need the Spellcloth cooldown once they've finished crafting their Spellstrike gear. So you can buy the cooldowns from them, which is again going to cost a lot of money. But if you are extremely rich going into TBC and you have money as an object, you can actually get it all sorted within the first week of TBC. You really go, balls to the wall. You can get it very quickly. But obviously this means, as a mage, first of all, as a mage you probably already are farming an immense amount of gold. My advice would be to farm even more gold. Okay, going into TBC Classic with 20,000 gold is probably a good starting point, to be honest, because this gear is simply going to cost so much money. We haven't even mentioned enchants and consumables and stuff like that you're going to need for the raid. So it's probably a good thing to do to absolutely sack off Naxxramas if you're watching this video close to the release of TBC to save money, because the money spent on raiding Naxxramas to get tier 3 gear could be money spent crafting Spellstrike and Spellfire, which is infinitely better, and you're going to replace tier 3 gear with some good dungeon gear anyway, and even some questing gear, to be honest. Essentially the focus for a mage really at level 70 is actually to be farming gold to get good gear rather than farming dungeons and raids. You can kind of leave your farming of dungeons to a later date. You really need to focus on farming as much gold as humanly possible to get this gear, because the amount of DPS difference of crafting Spellfire and Spellstrike is absolutely huge. It's a much bigger step up than grinding your reputations to get pre-raid best in slot loot from exalted reputations. So it is much more worth just to spend your time farming as much gold as you can. If you're going to be raiding in Arcane spec, I would recommend going for the Spellfire set first, since you don't actually need the hit chance from the Spellstrike gear, since you get a lot of hit chance from your talents. So it's probably better to just go for Spellfire, especially as you can get the gloves and then get your spell power enchant and everything like that on it. Overall, as far as I can see, the Spellfire set will provide more DPS to you than the Spellstrike set, so it's probably better to prioritise crafting that before the Spellstrike, but nonetheless, you do really want to be crafting both sets to get the most out of your class. Last piece of advice I'm going to give you is to get some really early spell power weapons, which are going to trump the Naxxramas loot. So first of all, what you want to get is the Continuum Blade. Will probably be the fastest weapon that you can reliably get, because it's a rep reward with Keepers of Time, and only requires 2 extra Black Morass runs to get after you've completed the Karzhan achievement. So that one is very quick, because you just get grinded up to Revert very quickly, because when you turn in the quest rewards for the achievements of all the Keepers of Time dungeons, you just get big chunks of rep. So that's probably the first one you're going to get. It's actually quite nice because it has a little bit of cheeky stamina on it. Apart from that, you can also get really lucky with the last boss of Shadow Labyrinth. There's a really good weapon that drops from there called the Great Sword of Horrid Dreams. But obviously the issue with that is the dungeon is quite long, it's on the last boss, and it's also RNG dependent, and a lot of people only like to farm the first 2 bosses of Shadow Labyrinth when they're doing reputation runs, so it's something to bear in mind. Apart from that, you can also go for the PvP weapon from farming Battlegrounds, which you just have to farm Eye of the Storm a few times and grind enough honor. It's actually a solid option that not a lot of people know about, especially if you're thinking about focusing more on PvP, and you do actually need to like practice a little bit PvP, with all your new talents and everything like that, and also have a lot of fun while doing it, because obviously farming dungeons is nowhere near as fun as just farming Battlegrounds, a lot of the time anyway. So yeah, the spell power weapon, it's basically a rank 14 copy, like a blue copy, and it's actually pretty decent because it also has spell hit on it. Apart from that, once you've done with those weapons, you really want to be farming Honor Hold and Fraumar reputation to get the spell power weapon from those reputations. Basically the same depending on what faction you play. If you want to stick a big fat spell power enchant on it, and then when you top that up with the Wizard Oil, you have an immense amount of spell power coming from your weapon. But anyway guys, that is my honest advice to a mage for TBC Classic. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel to get more videos like this in your feed. But anyway, my name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.